Africa. These are things that as business people need to really engage and see how best we can deal with them. Estimating this debate for this event, top speakers were invited to take part in this summit to try and find answers to the following important 7 questions. 1, how can we enhance societal impact while driving profitable business practices? Because we need to get profit as we run business. 2, how leadership strategy for social impact does look like. 3, is our overall growth healthy, inclusive, and sustainable in a changing South Africa? These are the questions that we need to ask. 4, how can we create and advance the long-term interests for the societies in which we operate? Because we are not in an island, we operate within the society. And 5, how can we harness and integrate business and government and society leadership efforts to create a better society? Joint efforts. How would leaders lead in the changing world of technology revolution and leadership crisis? And how can we use technology and innovation for better societal impact? And last, the world today is faced with mounting trust deficits and lack of ethical behavior. That's the challenge we have. People who believe taking from the poor is nothing, but I can just enrich myself. Ethical issues, very critical. That's what we need to inculcate in our people all the time. As I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, the time is now for the brave and to work with others who have a mutual interest in shared outcome, regardless of who they are or where they come from. From this will now come the innovation in thinking, technology, and ways for working together that will build a better, more sustainable, and therefore a more prosperous South Africa for all its people. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Mukola. To work and partner with the People's University is a privilege to us as the Innovation House. For any science and technology park, ladies and gentlemen, to work effectively and to have the desired impact, it needs to cooperate and to work very closely with 4 stakeholders: academia and research being the 1, government being the 2nd, the private sector being the 3rd, and 4th, society. So, Prof, we will surely pass on your message to our principals. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Note to our speakers, we will have a colleague at the back. We will have 2 green posters. The green one will signal that you have 10 minutes to go, and the red one will signal that you have 5 minutes to go. I urge you to look to my left, your right. When I stand up, it means your time is over. When I walk towards the podium, it means you're done. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, to once again quote Prof. Mukola, the theme for today's leadership for a better society. And he said the theme is about making holistic and integrated business and government decisions that will have or make a remarkable impact on key societal challenges like poverty, housing, and inequalities in our country. To tackle this theme is our first speaker, Ms. Bongiwe Beja. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask that you wait until I read their resumes because they are impressive. I did try and cut them and I thought I would be doing justice. So please bear with me. I will try by all means to go through them quite fast. So, Ms. Beja is a youth stream lead at YES and works directly with the CEO for CEO, Dr. Tshwane Ismail Saville, I hope I pronounced it correctly, to oversee that the youth that are placed in the YES program have a quality of work experience. Prior to joining YES, Ubongiwe was the general manager of Sililo Uluto Technologies, a fast-growing technology and education social enterprise which has significant impact in the emerging township and rural communities across South Africa. Wongiwe has worked in the investment management industry for the majority of her career and was a specialist in the business development and client relation of institutional clients. She holds an MCOM Development Finance degree, cum laude, with a focus on sustainable responsible investment for the UCT Graduate School of Business. Wongiwe has been elected curator of the Global Shapers community in the Cape Town Hub, an initiative of the World Economic Forum, and now a member of the Tshwane Hub. She has recently been voted as the 11th most influential young South African for 2018. A round of applause. And she won the overall category for the personal development and academia. Through her work, she wants to develop the continent by playing a significant role in unlocking value. I'd like to present to you Miss Ubongiwe, a daughter of a Reverend and a Dr. Nochal from the lovely province of the Eastern Cape. Am I lying?
Yeah. Can everyone hear me? Yes. Please, you really do your job. The Reverend and the doctors, you knew that. Not many people know that about me. If you could give me a moment just to get my clicker on, because I like to walk around when I talk. Wow. And also to give IT a moment to get my presentation up. So thank you very much, everybody. That was a very warm welcome. And unlike our previous speaker, I think I'll just skip and say all protocol observed. And greetings to everybody in the room. I'm tackling this morning the issue of unemployment, the crisis of unemployment in our country. So bear with me. The first couple of slides are a bit depressing, but the truth is I'd rather be honest about what unemployment in this country looks like, and then share what we are doing as the Youth Employment Service to kind of curb youth unemployment. Though I will say that yes alone as an initiative will not drive youth unemployment down. I think the entire theme of this summit is so critical because if you were to summarize it, or if I were to summarize it in my own words, it's really around collaboration. Collaboration of key stakeholders being government, society, community at large, corporates, and business. And that's really what I'll be sharing today. Is there an issue? I do have my presentation on my screen. Does that help? All right. Being a daughter of a preacher, I can talk. With or without, and I'll need a hallelujah and a amen. So if you just think of the first couple of slides. The first slide that we'll see when it does eventually come up, it will say why yes and why yes now. Right? Let's see if I was lying. Why yes for South Africa today? Because we are the most unequal country in the world. We've got the highest Gini coefficient, meaning the gap between rich and poor is the highest in the world. This links with the second point that we've got the lowest social mobility in the country. What does that mean? If you're born poor, you're likely to stay poor. If you are born rich, you're likely to stay rich. It's a hard fact to swallow because it means that social mobility is the ability to move from one social class to another in an upward trajectory. And if you have a Gini coefficient that's as high as ours, it is hard to move from poverty to wealth. Another thing we cannot ignore is the fact that the bulk of our population is young. This is a phenomenon across the median age of Africa, depending on what study you research, is between 18 and 20 years old. And so we've got young people that we look after and ensure that they become economically active. I know that I'm sitting with business class students and they're going to look at the GDP now and say, no, wait, mommy, that's not it. True. 2 quarters ago, our GDP was minus 3.2%. But I like to put the slide there just to show that we can dip as low as -3%. Unemployment in this country is at 29%, but youth unemployment is almost double that, at 56%. And what I like to say is structurally not active or locked out of the economy is those that are not in education, not in employment, and not in training. And that's 40% of our youth. We cannot ignore youth unemployment. It then becomes everybody's business to ensure that you need to ask yourself, what am I doing about youth unemployment in this country? Another scary statistic is that those joining the labor force do not have matric. 56% of the 1 million that are joining the labor force don't have matric. And whilst we do talk 4IR, and I'm glad to see an agency and a school that doesn't just talk, but actually does something about the technologies that 4IR introduces, the truth is, if you speak to an HR manager today, and they get a set of CVs, the CV with a matric and the CV without, or CV with tertiary education and a CV without matric, they will still lean on the one that has some form of education. But the bulk of the labor force don't have what I like to call the currency to get a job in our current climate. They did share that I come from the finance background, so this is the only financial slide. The blue bars is GDP growth over a 10-11 year period, right? But I'll need you to focus on the black dot because that's employment growth. And we can no longer argue as South Africa that unemployment coupled with GDP growth is an emerging market phenomenon. Why do I say that? If you look at Brazil, which is the second bar there, they've got a lower GDP growth than we do in this period, but the difference is that they are creating jobs. The employment number is positive. South Africa is looking a lot more like Russia, with a reasonable GDP growth, but a seriously low employment growth. We want to have the China story, where we're shooting the lights out from an employment perspective, and we're shooting the lights out from an economic perspective. So here it is, 6.7 million South Africans are out of job. Let me put that number into context. Year on year, there's about 600,000 matriculants. The matriculant class is 600,000. Take the matriculant class over a period of 10 years, and that's how many unemployed people we have in the country today. And the reason they're not being absorbed in spatial inequality. Spatial inequality means that where I live in South Africa matters. Because if I'm in the township, in the rural area, and I get a job in the urban area, research tells me that I spend almost 60% of that wage or remuneration on transport. And then, of course, the fourth industrial revolution, without scaring you, it is true that corporates are exploring things like automation, robotics. And at this point in time, headcount means that you're not absorbing as many employees as you would have when we were in the third and previous revolutions. We've also seen industrial concentration in certain sectors. We cannot be surprised at the fees must fall, at the protests, or the disgruntledness from the youth that we read and see on a daily basis in the news. Because our unemployment rate is double that of Tunisia's before their uprising. And in fact, that's how the Global Shapers community, which I'm a part of, and funny enough, part of the Tshwane Hub, quite fitting being at the Tshwane Leadership Summit today, an initiative of the World Economic Forum, that's how it was born. Because the young people of that area and region decided to keep the world at a standstill, to say, listen to us. We are now frustrated, and this is how they show it. And my point with this slide is that we really have to do something about youth unemployment before we get to these levels. You will know this, that unemployment will be linked to poverty. And I'm really glad that you made the point, sir, that poverty must be eradicated. You can link unemployment also to crime and undesirable outcomes. Almost 50% of our population live below the poverty line, which is 524 Rand. That's less than some people pour petrol, full tank in their car. And that needs to feed an entire family. Unemployment in the peri-urban areas, being rural and townships, is even higher. It's 60 to 63%. And this is the essence or the backdrop of the youth unemployment. That is why the YES initiative was launched. Because we found that the very thing that prevents you from getting a job is not having had one before. And so this is why YES was launched by President Ramaphosa last year in March 2018, and it's business-led. We are a non-profit organization, a standalone entity with the support from President, but we're not a government agency. What we do on a daily basis is to go to corporates, to SMEs, and say, hire a youth for 12 months and give them a quality work experience. Why we say we've collaborated with government, business, and labor is because the DTI has been critical in publishing a gazette that outlines how you can participate in the YES program. But the essence of the YES program is knocking on the door of every corporate, every sponsor shop, every SMME to say, hire one young person and give them a chance. It would be ridiculous to expect 6.7 million to be absorbed in a permanent position throughout the corporates of South Africa, because like we mentioned earlier, companies still need to make profit, and it does cost to hire. So what we do say is give them a 12-month quality work experience. There are about 3 or 4 innovations that I'll share this morning around this. The first is the government gazette. So those that work with corporates will know that you've got to tangle a carrot, or dangle a carrot, apologies, dangle a carrot in order for them to participate in something. And the carrot that we dangle is transform. Those companies that are not transformed and hire, yes, youth in their organization, giving them the 12-month work experience, can move up a level or 2 levels up on their BEE scorecard, provided that they give a percentage of that cohort permanent jobs. Being in the first year, I'm very excited to tell you that most of the corporates that have done the YES program for BEE purposes are actually absorbing as high as 80% to 90% of their cohort, because they're just so blown away at the young talent that they do then take on. But that's essentially the first policy, though it doesn't negate anybody that's already at level 1 to participate in the YES program, primarily from a nation-building perspective. The second innovation is where I work, the youth stream lead, but I must apologize to Tshwane. I've recently been promoted to head of business development, so I'll be moving out of this space and seeing more of the corporates to join YES. And really what we've done, because of time, I'm just going to go right forward, is we see in market, and we researched this before YES was launched, that corporates say, fine, we can hire youth, but the truth is, the cost of training these guys, because they're just not ready to be in the environment that we require, is so high that you might as well get somebody that will come in and be running on day 1. So we've developed 2 apps. One app has the work readiness content. It's got 25 modules where we've partnered with the World Bank, and we've co-created soft skills training that through the 12-month experience, that youth has got proper content to allow them to navigate through their experience. We teach things like building a growth mindset, communication, money management, because a lot of our youth, it means that it's the first time that they're getting a job. If I've been in the rural area and I'm all of a sudden sat behind a computer, even the environments can be intimidating. And so I quickly go on my smartphone and go through the modules during my lunch break just to get that boost of confidence. We deliver the content in a very relatable way. It's animations. We use the knack. Those of you that watch Inspire Generations, we kind of copy that type of soapy drama in the short films and the animations to ensure that the youth truly understand the point that we're driving, and then there's some short questions and reflections. At the end of each module, the YES youth get a LinkedIn certificate which can then be digitally profiled. We do this because, remember, some of the youth aren't going to be absorbed at the end of the 12 months. So to increase the chances of employability post your YES experience, we've got a partnership with LinkedIn to ensure that that flag, that YES badge, is prioritized when potential employers are looking for candidates. At the end of the 12-month experience, this is what the youth get. A CV, and this is a verified CV. Depending on how you went through the modules that are on our app, we also have a weekly and a monthly survey to ascertain what are the core skills of this youth. There's a reference letter because a supervisor has a supervisor app that is endorsing the youth throughout their 12-month experience, and we take word for word the comments that those supervisors make, as well as the characteristics and skills that you then receive. The third innovation is the one that I believe will truly curb youth unemployment. Because you may be sitting there that, okay, all good and well for me. 12-month quality work experience is not going to get that 56% down, nor is it going to change that 40.3%. What it does do, though, is increase the employability. But to truly drive sustainable jobs, you need to have physical presence in the communities, in the rural areas, and in the township. And this is the YES Hub model, where you can truly now cultivate new jobs, because that employment number needs to go up. This is our flagship hub in Tembisa. We get corporates to then partner with us and sponsor physical infrastructure in communities. That top level is invested by Investec, or rather sponsored by Investec, Unilever, Sanlam. There are digital programs that happen in the training room there. And at the top there's a master chef, Tembisa-based chef that won a competition, and he runs his restaurant from the top level there, and he's making quite good money in terms of profitability in that region. My favorite part is behind the actual physical structure. We've got a hydroponics and aquaponics farm, sponsored by Nedbank and AFGRI. And what we do there, the produce that is done from urban farming using latest technology is sold in urban areas. So some of the restaurants that you eat in at Santon, or the retailers like Food Lovers Market, that lettuce is coming from Tembisa. And that YES youth in the first 12 months learned how to use this technology and is now a business owner and teaching 25 other youth how to use this, and in fact, empower themselves as an entrepreneur. So how to do the YES program? You either hire the youth inside your business, or if you are a corporate that's exploring 4IR and don't have the capacity to have all youth in your organization in one go, you can sponsor the youth to be placed in a partner organization. This is what we call our implementation partner model, in an SMME or NGO, again, curbing that issue of spatial inequality, where the youth can go in their community to a vetted SMME. By vetted, I mean we check that there is indeed a job there for the youth. The last thing you want to do as a corporate is pay for a youth for 12 months, meanwhile they're sitting there not doing anything in that environment. Or, like I've just shown you, hosted in the YES Hub. The last innovation, and this is where I'll need you to get your phones out, is we've created a crowdfunding platform where you can sponsor a youth one YES at a time. If you take down that link, you'll see a number of pictures of youth that are unemployed. These are youth that are city that have a job at the SMME and NGO, but that particular SME or NGO cannot afford the salary. Said, hello South Africa, please fund this youth. And as soon as we're able to carry, that youth gets placed in a job. So if you would like, please go to that link, and you can invest as little as 10 Rand on the crowdfunding platform. And really my message to you today, before I even sit down, one, I've just completed my Master's in Development Finance, and I spoke to Professor Yonka before, and he said that the focus here is social impact. And really, I think that is what the business schools need in the country. And so I know we said we streaming live, so I'm rather afraid to make this announcement. But I'm keen to be one of the next graduates of that doctor's in business administration at this university. I say that because I've committed myself to developing this continent. You'll hear from my profile that I spent some time in the investment industry and left to work in the rural and township areas of this country. Why would I do that? I want to take the conventional economics and use those tools in an emerging context to truly see us transition from emerging to develop. I really believe in my heart of hearts that I'm part of the generation that will live to see Africa develop. So my ask or plea from my presentation today is that one, if you're running a business, prioritize youth intentionally. If each and every one of us decide that when I hire, out of the 10 people that I hire, at least one of them must be youth. I'm not here on a marketing ploy for you to do the YES program, though I'd love you to do, particularly now that I'm head of business development. But be intentional about youth unemployment. It is a crisis in this country, and it's one way to tackle the social ills that we have. But we've got a beautiful lineup of speakers that will also show you what to do in the other instances or social ills that we have. So let's build South Africa one yes at a time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You've been described as a trailblazer.
You really check me out.
I'm a marketer.
I can see.
You are phenomenal. The stats that you put out there are very scary. I think we all know on a day-to-day basis. We know our economy well. We know the stats are very bad. I mean, you've asked us all here to prioritize youth employment, and that is not just to the corporate or to government, but it's also in our own hall. You actually made me feel very, very quite guilty, and my comms manager will tell you the whole issue of experience versus because we're going through a process, and I'm like, and you know what? You've just managed to get us to change the way we think and the way we do things. But I think that the next important thing that I noted and I was saying to my colleague is the fact that I think a lot of us, whether we are government, academia, or corporate, are doing so much. As the Innovation Hub, and I'm sorry I'm going to keep on plugging because Prof. Steve is not paying me so I can plug in as much as I want. So, as the Innovation Hub and as part of the Gauteng government is that we're investing plus minus 2 million to a program called the Kasi Lab, which is township hubs, or rather satellite hubs of the Innovation Hub in townships. And really the role there is to revitalize and to reindustrialize the township economy by building entrepreneurs and building businesses so that money can be spent, within the community. Because you speak about the fact that, our ex-MEC, Mayela, used to speak about and has the numbers to quote or support to say, you have our people living in Soweto as an example and spending money, like ridiculous amounts of money to get to work in the cities, and then spending their salaries in the cities and coming back to a poor community. So I would like to urge it, and I've said once again to my colleagues that from the Innovation Hub, we'll definitely be making contact because we are all doing things in our little pockets, and the impact is not as great as it would possibly be if we work together. Government is spending a lot of money, and half the time we know about the YES program, but I'll be honest, we didn't know the details of it. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we know. So I'll put my CEO's head on the block. We will definitely be talking. And for each of us here, you are not getting a goodie bag if you go out, unless you actually sign up on that. And it was it's fundme.yes4youth.co.za. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure each one of us can spend 10 Rand, 20 Rand, anything to support a very good initiative. Ms. Better, please take your seat. Ladies and gentlemen, to introduce the next speaker. This gentleman is very dear to my heart. Not in that way. Not in that way. He just happens to be a long-time friend. Yes, and he doubles up as an MC. So before I go to his professional In his past time, he does double up as a wedding MC, as a funeral MC, as a comedian. I mean, Mr. Lincoln Money is an amazing human being. And when I've never taken the time, and I think most of us would attest to this, you don't know the details, the professional details of your friend. Is it right? I didn't know most of the things, or at least 70% of the things I recommend. And I think it goes to the fact that you are very much a humble man. You've also surprised me because, I mean, this man was MC to my 40th, okay? And I didn't know that his name is Damago. You know Damago, of course. So he goes by the name of Lincoln Linky Mali. Now I know. So I'll be introducing to you, ladies and gentlemen, Damago Mali, who's an experienced banker with over 20 years in the industry. He has been with Standard Bank Group for the last 18 years and is currently the head of Group Card and Emerging Payments. The role is geographically spread across 17 countries on the continent, as well as being responsible for facilitating payments between Africa and China. Utamaku has a vast experience working on the continent as in the Western region in Africa, managing the Standard Bank Group personal and business banking franchises in Angola, Democratic Republic of Congo, Ghana, Nigeria, and Namibia. And now brace yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. His academic qualifications: BA LLB from Rhodes University, MBA from Henley Management College from the UK, and an AMP Harvard Business School. Lincoln has attended various executive programs at universities in South Africa and abroad, including Duke University, Thunderbird University, and INSEAD University. Now, please Google some of these. Lincoln is currently the chairman of Diners Club South Africa and has previously held board memberships in Stanbic Malawi, Stanbic Zambia, Stanbic Zimbabwe, Adulo, Technicon South Africa, and the Institute of Bankers. Lincoln is an international CEMEA Business Council member for Visa. His core expertise are in areas of leadership, people management, customer service, sales management, and business performance. He has led and managed large and diverse teams across different geographies and business units, whilst also growing and developing many individuals in leadership positions. He's a highly regarded speaker who has addressed various local and international conferences. Lincoln was a class speaker at graduation at Harvard Business School in 2013. He was honored for the leadership role and achievement by his alma mater, Rhodes University, with the Distinguished Old Rhodesian Award in 2015. He is also a prolific writer and maintains a blog. You must read this, very interesting. www.leadershipconversations.coza, in which he writes about topics he is passionate about. Some of these include leadership ethics, integrity, transformation, and societal changes. Lincoln is also very much married to a gorgeous wife called Zwa and has got 3 kids, Lihle, Amara, and Liam. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lincoln Mali Damago. And one other thing that is not in his resume that I do know about, and I'll tell you after he's done. Lincoln was also a spokesperson of a certain minister.
Good morning, everybody. After Matrona is giving my obituary, let's like to say, Prof, thank you so much for having me and to the leadership of the university. I do look forward to these moments where I can come and share a few thoughts, because at home, my vocabulary is very limited. It's limited to yes, dear, no, dear, I apologize, dear, I'll do it now, dear. So when I go outside and I speak to people and they listen to me, wow, that's a big thing. So I'm quite happy to be here. And I just see Professor Pityana was also here, so I'm quite intimidated by him also being here. So let's check where the slides are. So while they're checking the slides, can I start by asking, are there any Catholics in the room? phrase? Practicing and non-practicing? Okay. The most senior person in the Catholic Church is the Pope, right? You agree? So there was this Pope who had a heart problem. And so they needed somebody who would come and save the Pope. The way to save the Pope was to donate the heart. And obviously, if you donate the heart, you will not be there tomorrow to see the headlines. So they didn't expect that many people would come. But thousands of people came to the Vatican City, coming to save the Pope, to donate their heart. Now they have to make a decision. How will we choose the person? Old Cardinal said, no, we'll take a feather, and we'll blow the feather down. The person upon whom it lands, that's the person who will be blessed to save the Pope. Feather was blown, but the feather could not land. The Cardinal said even to the old bishops, you also go down and prove your faith. But still, the feather could not land. Why do you think that was so? Because all the committed Catholics who'd come there to save the Pope, every time the feather came, they were blowing up. Right? Which leads me to the first conversation I want to talk about, which is the issue of ethics. Everybody you speak to in South Africa condemns corruption, hates corruption, doesn't like corruption, but corruption is growing every day. Because we condemn it as it affects somebody else. But when I am benefiting, or my family is benefiting, or where I have to make a decision, suddenly we see the world slightly differently. So the headlines now are full of people who were household names, people whose names we revered, who now are mired in scandal. The family members used to talk about those people, now nobody knows them. They used to be in the headlines. They used to be on top of the heap, now the heap is on top of them. And we always think it's only certain people. Let me show you that it can be anybody. Local, international, white, black, male, female, sports, cultural, religious, all of these people today are mired in scandal. And I can give you reams of more names, former presidents, former media stars, former, comedians, everything you can think of. All of those people have fallen by the wayside. Why is that so? When all of us say we condemn unethical behavior, but unethical behavior is growing every day. You think of our companies, state-owned companies that have lost their way. Every single day, we're borrowing from the future of our children to prop up these companies because money has been swindled. No sleep at the time. Everybody talks about the last 10 years. All this was happening, they took the entire population and said, can you live on Mars? And then we'll do this. It was happening while all of us were dead. How many people stood up and said, this is unacceptable? This is wrong. Hundreds of people lost their jobs, trumped up charges. People lost their careers. This is what happens. You look at large corporations that lost their word. Many of these corporations, when you walk in, they are big value statements. We believe in integrity. We believe in this. We believe in that. Today, some of the kids working in those environments cannot get a job in other companies. Because once you see the name of the company, you say, you're from, no, I'm not going to hire you. The impact of these things is devastating to society as a whole. What lessons can we glean from these scandals? The pressure to maintain or achieve numbers. To achieve numbers at all costs. 2, fear and silence. You go to many of the commissions that are taking place. Many people feared to speak out, to raise an objection, because there was a cabal in charge. Many of these have got bigger than life CEOs, or a minister, or a CEO, and all of these things. In government, people don't even have names. They're called deputy general, director general, honorable minister, MEC, chief. For what? One five I started then, my name is Lincoln, or Lincoln, depending which school you went, or come out. But if suddenly I am this, the head off, for what? Weak boards. People sit on boards without understanding the fiduciary responsibilities. Why do you sit on a board if you don't understand your role and your responsibilities? Conflicts of interest. People think that it's okay to just say, I've got this conflict of interest, noted, and then we continue. You have to think deeply about the conflicts and what they have to do to business and to society. Many of them is where there's a moral failure at the top. Leaders cast a shadow on their organizations. Dark, long shadows that we cast on our organizations. The abuse of power and abuse of resources, where people think that the resources of an organization or the resources of society belong to them or their friends or their family. If everybody suddenly thinks that because I work at Standard Bank, suddenly the entire Mali family is there, they're employed there, they're doing business at Standard Bank. For what? So, if ethics are poor at the top, you can rest assured that the behavior is copied throughout the organization. When the organization is rotten at the top, you can imagine that it's rotten to the core. What values are there in such organizations? Let's think about the people who lose their way. Very few people set out to cheat, to steal money, to do all of these things. But all of us have to understand we've got the capacity to do wrong. All of us, if you don't have guidance, if you don't have strong values, if you're not grounded, it's very easy for you to be seduced to do the wrong things. So integrity is the fulcrum upon which ethical leadership rests. This is what I'm hoping our universities, our colleges and our schools and our families will start to instill certain values in our children, so that we know unethical behavior from ethical behavior. So, an old Greek tale will tell you about Daedalus and Icarus. Daedalus was the innovator, and he was imprisoned in this island, and he wanted to escape. He designed these wings, which had wax, and gave his son Icarus to try them out. But he warned him, do not fly too high. The sun will burn the wax. And do not fly too low, because you'll crash to the sea. Icarus took to the skies and flew, and he felt so free, and he was too close to the sun. And the wax came out, and he fell. How many of us are giving that Daedalus advice to young people? Who are the people giving Daedalus advice to young people? So we need to give people guidance as they move up the corporate ladder, as they move up the political ladder. When everybody says you're great, that's when you're getting close to the death zone of leadership, where there's no oxygen, where you can do wrong, because everybody says you are it, and you start to believe that indeed you are it. So how do you make sure you don't get yourself into trouble? The first is know thyself. The Oracle of Delphi says, know thyself. Not what other people tell you, but know thyself. Secondly, have a team of people around you who can challenge you. And also have a circle of advisors. In my family, I have got close friends and people who are my advisors. My wife has been self-appointed as the head of these advisors. She dispenses regular, solicited and unsolicited advice. But those people are able to ground you. Your clients ground you and your community where you come from. I come from KwaZulu Township, 197 Bruna Street. When I go home, I go and stay at my mother's house. I'm going to eat the same food I used to enjoy when I was young. The fact that I'm no longer enjoying it is not my mother's problem. I'm going to get that food and get seconds. And as I walk in, I'm going to be told, you are fat. You're slim. You're thin. While my wife told me I'm fat. And then everyone in the community is going to be called to help on every issue because I come from Joburg. But in that way, you are grounded. You never become too important than you really are. So what we cannot compromise is on how things are done. The shortcuts are not an answer. And we must be able to guide everyone around that. So when these things do happen in your environment, when do you speak up? And how do you speak up? It doesn't mean that the people who speak up have no fear. But their values and the issues they stand up for are bigger than the fear they have. So if I can give you 4 examples of these people. 2 of them are my friends, Mzebisi and Temba. The other one is Tulima Donzela. The one I wanted to talk about just briefly is Dr. Mark van der Riet. Go and Google his story. This is the guy who made sure that the coal that was coming from the Gupta mines was not up to standard. And they suspended him for months. And he died of pain. The guy was doing his job. How many people are finding themselves in that situation? Now, even when these scandals happen, what do people do? They try to cover up. And the cover up becomes worse than the original crime. It becomes worse than the original crime. That's the thing. So the second thing I want to talk about is about why do we want to lead? Do we know what leadership is about? The first one is there is a deeply personal and intrusive question we have to answer. Why do we want to lead? Not what we tell others. What we know genuinely in our hearts. Is it the perks? Is it power? Is it prestige? Is it control? Is it status? Whatever decisions, whatever reasons are you want to lead is likely to affect your decision making. If you're driven by power and prestige and all of those things, your decision making and your behavior will be aligned to that. But if it's a higher calling, if it's to do with the interest of somebody else, then that will also affect your decisions. There's nothing wrong with a bit of bling. But if bling is what defines you as a leader, you're going to make bling-related decisions. So what I've tried to do in my life is to find a standard by which I can measure my life and my relationship to the people that I work with or that I lead. And I found this slide, this standard. And the way it says each leader, and I'll paraphrase to say also a potential leader, has to place the people at the center, be responsive to their needs, respectful of their wishes, and accountable to them. This is not fortnightly. This is not quarterly. This is not biannually. This is every single day. It goes further to say, this requires us as leaders to be selfless in our contribution, inclusive in our decisions, humble in our behavior, and inspiring in our actions. It concludes, if we do this, our joy will not be how exalted we may be, not how elevated our positions are, not how much wealth we can amass, not how much power we can have. It says it must come from a deeper, special place where others benefit, grow or prosper because of our actions. That's leadership. If I fail, I can't lower the standard. I must get up to that standard in terms of how I live. I've been given the sign. So when we're given the responsibility to lead, we don't have the crown to be kings. Our job is to bring out the best in others. Leadership is a daily personal battle against pride, hubris, and ego. And as you win this struggle to remain principled and grounded, know that the next day it starts again. In every corporate, in every business, the more senior you are, everybody wants to call onto your bags. Everybody wants to say how good you are. If you don't stay grounded, you're going to make these mistakes. The first job of leadership is to love people. If you don't love people, you're not leading. It's manipulation. You have to love people genuinely and do things for them. Something bigger than yourself. So if serving is below you, then leadership is beyond you. We have so many people occupying leadership roles, they are not leaders. They're not leading anybody, they're taking a stroll. And nobody's coming. We need to be getting young people to really be leaders that people can look up to and inspire. Last thing I want to say is about leading with humanity. Many leaders are not connected with people at a human level. How do you connect with people at a human level to get the best out of them? Do you think there's a manual somewhere in corporates about how to lead a woman who's going through a divorce? Do you think there's a manual of how to lead a woman who cannot have children or wants to have children? Do you think there is a manual how to lead somebody who's in an abusive relationship? It is the humanity in you that can make you to get the best out of that person. Because it's not about you, it's about that person and how to get that person to really succeed. The hard stuff is easy in leadership. It's the soft stuff that's hard. The hard stuff is easy. It's the soft stuff that is difficult. And those who say, oh yeah, I don't deal with that soft stuff, many of them are hypocrites. The same people who will keep an email they got from the CEO 5 years ago, but they'll never say thank you to their staff. Same stuff, person who says, I don't do this soft stuff, but we're so happy that the CEO remember their name, but they cannot quit their staff. The hard stuff is easy. It's the soft stuff that is hard. People expect something from us as leaders. They want to know what we stand for and believe in. They want to know what we value. They want to know what we value and what we align to. We want to be these opaque people who call ourselves leaders. People want us to be transparent. They want to know what we feel and what we think. Because we're human beings, we're not extra people. So specifically for those who are in corporate, happy employees ensure happy customers. Happy customers ensure happy shareholders. It's in that order. Many companies start with the shareholder. And they get it completely wrong. They don't look after your staff, they're not going to look after your clients. Your clients will not give you more business to look after your shareholders. There's a particular issue in corporates. It's there even in public sector. It's on the issue of gender. Women are given a false choice between, do you want to be a best mom and wife, and do you want to be a best professional? I'm saying, how dare you ask that question? It's not for you to decide. It's for a woman to decide what she wants to deal with. If she wants to juggle 50 balls, of course she'll juggle 50 balls. The balls that you'll drop, those will drop. They are the ones she'll be able to drop. The ones that are dear, she will hold. We sometimes will have a situation where somebody has got a problem, there's a big project that's going on, but the child needs something that's great at school. And I'm like, dude, Willy's has got a cake. The gate from Woolies does not make you less of a parent. It's a choice. But we make these false choices. And those choices must not be made by paternalistic leaders. Ours to create the environment for women to succeed in our work. There is an issue that's a dirty little secret that we're not talking about, which is sexual harassment in the workplace. Where do we think these brutes that are killing people, molesting young people, what do you think happens to them when they walk in the workplace? Do they suddenly become angels? No, they're not. They're doing the same things, using power, status, to make people feel uncomfortable. Our job as leaders is to be firm about what is right, regardless of how prominent, regardless of how valuable, regardless of how profitable the division is. What is right, and we must stand for those things. In our teams, sometimes there's gold. There's amazing people in our teams, but we don't see them. Imagine that picture taken in 2005. President Bill Clinton is president. Who's behind him? Barack Obama, and he's holding a jacket. We didn't know then that that would be the next president. Who are the Obamas in your team? Are they known? Or you do all the presentations? You are the only one known because you are it, instead of allowing the best people to come through. You take other people's work and you make it yours, and not allow people to shine and grow by your presence. Learning and development is fundamental. The reason why we have these universities is because we need to give, as corporates, huge opportunities for our staff to be developed. And we have to train them well enough for them that they can leave, but treat them so well enough that they don't want to go. When I ask leaders, somebody said, I've been in this job for 15 years. I said, okay, what have you done? Oh, no, this project. No. How many people have you developed? How many people can say, because of you, I'm this? That's the way I'd like to value leaders. A team, we have teams. A team for me, by definition, is diversity. By definition, is inclusion. By definition, is cohesion. If you don't have those three things, to me, you don't have a team. You just have a bunch of people reporting to you. Is your team diverse? In terms of thinking, age, gender, youth, all of that. Is your team inclusive? Do people feel that their language, their culture, their ideas are all part of this team? And then is the team cohesive? We sometimes make our staff to fight for us or for our affection. There's affections in the team. Everybody wants to be loved by us. But what do we do at home? At home, if the kids are fighting, you sit in your room and you say, if I come out of this room, and they know the fight is gone because you said these are our values. We have to mold teams into a cohesive force for good. This is the horrible thing that happens in most departments, corporates, public sector, whatever. There's a boat there, and there is something there, a hole, and the water is coming. The two guys were so happy the hole is not on our side. In 10 minutes' time, this boat is going to sink. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, there is no shark worth its salt that will start a commission of inquiry to investigate on which side of the boat you were in. It's going to deal with everybody. These frictions and tensions we have are sometimes not good enough. We have millennials. They are coming into our organization as fast as you can ever imagine. We're a young country. All the people who are producing, the people from the YES program, are coming into our organizations. A command and control culture cannot work with them. They require you to lead from the front with a flag, not from behind with a whip. This is not going to work with young people. And then when you're working with your people, please celebrate publicly, but reprimand privately. No humiliation. Imagine how many people go home destroyed by you, your words, the things you said. And then you want to have a family function with your staff. And then when you have that family function, normally the kids say, oh, this is my manager. Oh, mom, they want to... because they speak all of the things that are there. So I want to end off with the things that my honorable speaker said before you. This quote from Martin Luther King must make us to think. It says, when you look at modern men, we have to face the fact that modern man suffers from a kind of poverty of the spirit, which stands in glaring contrast to his scientific and technological abundance. We've learned to fly the air like birds. We've learned to swim the sea like fish, and yet we haven't learned to walk the earth as brothers and sisters. All the steps that she was quoting are telling us a story. We are sitting on a ticking time bomb. We are the most unequal country in the world. Society is going to rupture unless we do something. The best brains and the best academics and the best intellectuals in the UK never figured out Brexit. The best brains and the best elites in the States could never figure out Trump's election. The best elites could not figure out the Arab Spring. What is it that we don't see here in South Africa? What is it that we don't say that is coming? So for us as business, we should think of shared prosperity. This is the way we should do things. And I'll leave you with the old proverb that says, to go fast, you go alone. But to go far, we go together. Madam, the record for the longest speech is held by the Honorable Mangosuthu Buthelezi, who after speaking for 3 days said, Madam Speaker, that concludes my opening remarks.
Delivery by Mr. Nkunmane. Usukupini ulawo Tibashi. Thank you, Tamaku. I think, ladies and gentlemen, will agree that these two speakers, with both their presentations, were not only riveting, mind-blowing, but there's a lot of questions that they have posed for us as individuals, as government, as corporate. There is so much to do. I mean, Pinkon, there's so many questions you asked. And you make a point, and it's funny how you move from, I worked for the public broadcaster, which is not really, didn't really feel like government, to be honest, to private sector, to back to government, and how things have changed. The issue of, and colleagues will attest to this, I really found it difficult, the whole issue of DDG, Chief Executive, MEC, Honorable, the protocol, no protocol. I mean, our ex-CEO, Dr. Sibanda, even took me to a protocol training, because there's protocol training, but there's things that I'm like, he is Lincoln. Why can't I have a conversation with him? And I think we're improving as time goes. We've just lost an MEC who was very much, please call me Spot. And it would be very interesting. Please, nobody who's streaming, you edit that. My job is on the last. But it's very interesting that you raise that. As leaders, you need to really, I think many times people tend to lead from their head and not use their heart. And most of the issues, as you say, the most difficult are the soft issues that we tend to run away. I always say, one of the things that women are blamed for is this thing that you can't cry at work. If you are feeling really emotionally moved or drained for whatever reason, it's human nature. Cry. So corporate South Africa, and I think across the world, we're made into these robots. We are not robots. In fact, when my husband cries, I celebrate, because it means he's starting to deal with the issue. And I think as a society and as a country, if we would allow ourselves to just be human, the world would be such a better place. Bringing up 3 boys is difficult because a lot of people feel that I'm coddling them. You know, you're making them too much of girls. And I'm like, no. Definitely, I grew up as a tomboy, but I'm female, right? My boys must know what it is to be a woman. They're not women, but what a woman goes through. Just as much as they know what a boy goes through. And I think our society will be such a better place. Thank you very much. Let me not take too much of your time. Next up is our panel discussion. And I'm going to ask Prof. Jonker, the director of the business school at the Tshwane University of Technology, to please come up and facilitate. And once he comes up, I am going to tell you a bit about him. He is a BCom, MBL BCom graduate, and his academic career as a lecturer in 1989, or rather started the former Port Elizabeth Technicon in Port Elizabeth. He played a major role in the establishment of the first MBA program. You're a man of first. This is the first Tshwane Leadership Summit, and you were the first, you played a role in establishing the first MBA program in the Eastern Cape. Ladies and gentlemen, this has got nothing to do, I'm not a director because I come from the Eastern Cape, and those 2 are also from the Eastern Cape, and he's also from the Eastern Cape. Just a disclaimer, you know, it just matters the Eastern Cape are great. The prof served as the director of graduate school from 2005 to 2016. The school progressed from position 14 to 6th national position during his time, and international AMBA accreditation in 2016 under his leadership. I think that deserves a round of applause. But I know you want me to keep to time, so I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Matana. Also, welcome to you from me this morning. It's good to have you here with us. And part of this leadership summit is not only to listen to outstanding and excellent speakers, but it's also to give you a chance to take part in this leadership summit and in this leadership debate. So that is what we're going to do now. We're going to give you a chance to ask our distinguished guests some questions. We're going to take 4 to 5 questions out of the audience. We have a roaming mic, so please wait until I think Elena is organized. We will take the mic to you. Please wait until you have the mic and tell us who you are and where you're from. And please ask a question. Both these speakers are very passionate about their topics. Bongi from Yes and Lincoln in terms of, and he's one of my favorites on leadership topics, especially on these points about leadership in Africa. And so I had to talk to him about it before we came. He's one of the outstanding thinkers and thought leaders in South Africa, especially on leadership. And then we know that youth employment is the #1 priority at the moment in the country, as was pointed out by you, and the important work that they do in terms of that. So I'm going to stand here so we can. Anybody would like to start? Okay, there's a question right at the back, so we will start with that question and then we'll move to the right there. Thank you. You can just get the.
Everyone, my name is Manisara from Masasa Business Enterprise. I was part of the Standard Bank incubator, and then through the incubator sessions, they told us that every year Standard Bank pays 23 billion in ICT. Only 2% goes to black companies. As a PE level 1 black company, I'd like to be included in that value chain so that I can employ the youth from the Yes Foundation. Many youth we can absorb. We are a fintech company. We do blockchain solutions. We just released bitcoingas.com, which is a cryptocurrency. There are so many things that we have to build on that ecosystem. We're also building a Visa card that will be used to store Bitcoin. We want to employ youth from the Yes Foundation to build that card. So you as Standard Bank, please help us to get into that value chain of IT where Standard Bank is spending 23 billion and only 2% goes to black companies. Include us in that thing so that we can employ the youth. Because we are Standard Bank, we don't have employees, we're going to employ the youth and empower Standard Bank.
Thank you for that question, and I suppose, let's take note of that one. Then we'll move to the question there on the right, please.
Good morning. My name is Sango Veleman. come from AECI. Maybe a statement to Bogi, just to say I'm blown away by your presentation, and perhaps if there's an opportunity for us to talk outside this as from AECI, it would be good to see how we could participate in the program. Lincoln, Prof, I must say upfront that I was warned not to ask him any questions, but unfortunately, I will disappoint him. Lincoln spent quite a lot of time in government. I'm quite shocked that you don't see that in his resume. I'm sure there's a reason for that. But he grew quite a lot as a manager and as a leader in government. But Donna was right when she said this. But I'm interested more on your approach right now in Standard Bank to these kinds of vexing questions you have asked us. Your approach to youth unemployment, how you as leadership in Standard Bank, perhaps in the last 4 or 5 years. I also found it interesting in your slides when we were showing some companies were involved in all sorts of things. Standard Bank did not feature. I'm sure there was a reason for that. And lastly, just the statement, Lincoln, that says if ethically you're rotten at the top, then the entire organization is rotten. I think it requires a lot of qualification. Because if you think about SAPC 8, for instance, you had a lot of problems at the top, but you had people in the middle or even in the bottom, if you like, who stood up and said no. If you think about your own example, Dr. Van der Red, I think you said, who, despite what the top was saying, said no, I can't do. And I think it's a very important statement to actually encourage people to say leaders do actually come and go, right? It might be that the reason why we don't see Lincoln's part of government's participation is because of the so-called last 10 wasted years. So it does not be associated with government because of what happened in the last 10 years. It does not mean that government as an organ, as an institution, is actually rotten to the core. There are good people that still remain there. In fact, a lot of what you've said also in your input, which I found quite encouraging, is that there are people, even in very difficult times, even in organizations that look like completely grounded, excuse the pun, like SAA, you would still find people out there, right, who could still come up and save the situation. So I don't know, I would love your comment around that so that statement can be nicely qualified. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that question. Another question. So there's a question there at the back. Lady at the back.
Good morning. My name is
Can you please stand up? We can't see her.
Just check there first.
Okay, my name is Maud. That's CDF, but you can call me Maud. I work for Living Incubator. We are supported by CEDA. So I'm just surprised that CEDA is not here. I don't know why. We're working in silos again. So my question is to go to Tshwane, the facilitator, in terms of incubation not present. I feel that CEDA was supposed to be there because they've got incubators, and mostly it's small businesses and youth. And to Tshwane again, I'm just going to answer what Tshwane was leadership or what. I'm just going to say my questions. Okay. I think thanks for the nice message, but I feel that we know what the problem is and we know the causes, but at high level, these things are not how can I put it? Addressed properly. Because I don't know, it's because of the packages they get, so they're looking after their pockets instead of saving the nation. So I think if that mentality can go, then and have right people to say. And again, it's about change of management. When political parties change, then they change the whole department. That affects progress. So maybe they can amend whatever, I don't know, maybe some regulations or some sort to say there's no need to change the whole chain. You know, especially if there's a project that is running and there are right people for that project, irrespective of their political affiliation. I know there's a support point, but it has to be said.
Thank you very much. We're going to start with Leah and give her a chance to respond to that question.
Thank you. To the first question, I'd be excited to get Yes Youth on the project that you have, particularly that Bitcoin, Gasi, because like it's been mentioned throughout this morning is that we've got to use latest technology. What personally pains my heart, I come from Untitled, in the Eastern Cape, and the same shops, the same spaza shops that I drive past in Port Gailey, Esau and Woody, the North Crest, in the towns or areas or suburbs of Mthatha are still there and are likely not using technology or using stale technology. And that's what's causing a decline in that economy. The Mthatha I grew up in was a buzzing society. In fact, I often have a controversial statement, that says, apartheid did Transkei a favor. Because the leaders I grew up were black. The doctors were black, the lawyers were black, the businessmen were black. So I'm not intimidated by color. In fact, I grew up not to see color or recognize it and just know me. Like speaker said here, know thyself. Those are the values that were ingrained in me. Why am I telling you this? Is that this is the cry of the youth on the ground. Is that stop exposing us to things that aren't going to be relevant in the economy that we see. So I'm with you in putting pressure on Standard Bank, one, on their enterprise development chain, but two, on the YES program, which is one of the first things I asked Lincoln to see whether or not we could partner on youth unemployment. Funny enough, on the AECI contribution, thank you very much, I appreciate it. The first person I met is your colleague, Nicole, I think her name is. I have her business card, but would love to get yours and also get AECI on board. I obviously cannot comment on Tshwane. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bongi, for that good informative answer. We're going to give Lincoln a chance to respond.
Yes, I think the issue about transformation of IT is a big issue in our business. And I'd really like to get in contact with you, because some of the stuff you're working on Visa cards and payments are certainly in my environment. And I think the partnerships we're going to build are critical. No bank on its own can come with the latest technology. We do that with fintechs. Some fintechs we partner with, some of them we buy, some of them people don't even know it's backed by Standard Bank. There are all sorts of arrangements that we can have with that. So if I can have your details, I can be able to work with you on that. And it also is about all what I call the tertiary services that the bank offers, because that's where the battle is now. It's in the tertiary services. And some of those tertiary services have got international players. Part of our agreement with those players and our partnership means that you must partner with a local supplier. We can do a lot of that work with you. So I look forward to that engagement. And then we will be able to do the YES program as part of that. Then Sango, when I was young and rubber rouser, Sango was one of the rubber rousers. So I was hoping that you will now know I'm trying to be dignified. So Sango, I think that firstly, the issues I was clarifying have less to do with those companies. These are just illustrative. And as I said in my comments, I could give you 15 slides of different companies. In fact, there's a slide I've used that shows industries that are now being investigated by the Competitions Commission. Banking industry on Forex is one of them. The bread cartel was there, the school uniform. So all sorts of industries are now being investigated for pricing, for collusion, all of those things. And the key thing is, what are the ethical issues at play when those decisions are made? And now government has come with a very senior market conduct regulator who's going to look at market conduct. How do you price? Are you fair? If you give you a good, is this good, right? If you protect the consumer, all of those things are going to be there. If I talk about Standard Bank itself, our biggest lesson and painful lesson happened in Tanzania. So when I have this conversation outside of South Africa, I focus a lot on what happened in Tanzania. In Tanzania, we had a case where a senior executive of the bank, two of them, were involved in bribing a government official. And when we found out, we had to self-report ourselves, and that case went to the UK authorities and the US authorities because we're a listed company. And we got a fine in big pounds as a bank. And for 5 years, we suspended that if we did anything in those 5 years, that fine would come back. Right? So luckily for us, we didn't do anything in the 5 years, and that's gone. So we put a lot of rigorous things in our environment on ethics, what people have to do. But like any organizations, we deal with things where people, even when you've told them, people will get into trouble by stealing. People will get into trouble by doing wrong things on procurement, all of those things. And that is why I have this personal passion to help young leaders not to get into trouble. Because it's seductive outside your bling that you don't deserve. Because you've either borrowed too much or you've stolen. And that's what we have to do to make sure that we do that. The other issues, one of the biggest issues I do in the bank is to try and advocate, as it is said in the theme of the conference, about these leadership issues. So that I don't just talk about these things outside of Standard Bank. I also talk about them inside Standard Bank. One of the reasons why I wanted to write as a practitioner is that many leadership books are written by professors or by retired CEOs. I wanted to write as somebody who's leading now. So that somebody is, you say those things, but you're not doing it here. So that's what I do in my own environment. How to challenge one another as leaders to be better and treat people better. You know, one of the things, for example, I normally say to leaders is, give me your stats, and they'll give me the normal stats. And I say, no, give me your health stats. Most managers don't know that companies or departments have got a health company that they work with. That if you ask, you can get the health stats of your team. And those health stats are shocking if you don't know what's going on. Stress levels, suicides, attempted suicide, mental health challenges, all of these things are there. And I think that's part of what we have to do to grow as leaders, to learn some more.
Thank you very much, Bongi and now Lincoln. We really appreciate your input, answering the questions of our guests. The last question was to Tshwane, and that is why CEDA is not here. I think you are 100% right. It's an accusation against us that CEDA is not here. We've tried to get most of the stakeholders, but this is a first, and I can guarantee you the next time CEDA is going to be first on our list. In fact, we would like to have all the stakeholders here and all the business stakeholders, so please forgive us for that one. I think we're going to, Matona has indicated to me that we're already running out of time, but I'm going to give it a chance to just tell us about tea time, and we're just going to say thank you to this.
So whilst I will go through what happens next, I would like, Nene, will you help the Prof just to thank our two speakers? Thank you so much, Bongiwe. Thank you so much, Samago. Bye, thank you, Prof. Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the end of the first session, and I think it will be proper if I ask that we give the speakers one last round of applause. we hope, Lincoln and Bogiwe, that you will still have some time to network and have time for some further discussions. Ladies and gentlemen, the tea and coffee is served outside of the doors towards the right in the tent area. It's a 20-minute break, and I'll ask that we are back in here seated at 20 past 11. Enjoy.
Thank you so much.
Just hold your